Welcome to the official podcast of Joey's Song. You know, at Joey's Song, we have one mission: raise as much money as we can so that research into finding treatments and cures for epilepsy can get the funding it needs. We would love your support. If you can subscribe and leave a review of this podcast, it will help more than you could ever know. If you have a couple extra mouse clicks left in you, go to YouTube and our YouTube channel, Joey's Song, and subscribe. There. In less than 2 minutes, with a couple of mouse clicks, you will have made it easier for others to find us and help spread the word. Now, if you want to do a bit more, head over to joeysong.org, consider buying a show ticket or some merch, or even making a donation. Thanks. You know, we'll beat this disease, and together we'll have some fun doing it as well. Join us. All right, let's do this. Hey everybody, welcome to another Joey Song podcast. This is LINERnotes with me, myself, and my pal over here in his home surroundings in the Code Zero Radio studios, Andy McNamara. How are you, Andy?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm excited about our topic today only because who gets in, it's like, you know, MVP awards and all that. Who gets recognized is always fun to debate. Oh, I can't look at you. So we're in a different place than we normally are. So normally we're on Zoom or Riverside and we just look at our camera. But now I got him in my camera, so you guys may get far too many shots of my nose hairs than you want. So I'll try to do this the right way. We're going to talk about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. The inductees were just announced this week, and I think you and I both have relatively strong opinions on some of them.
We do. So if I could ask you before we start, Mike, you come from the business world. What were your opinions back in that world when awards would be given out at work?
Oh, God. Well, see, that's a great question. So I was a mid-level manager schmuck at IBM, despite the long hair and tattoos. I didn't have the tattoos and I didn't have the long hair.
You're free now.
Yes, I am. I can be me. And I know that the awards were as much about whose turn it was and which manager, because there was a group of managers and then there was an exec above us and we decided who'd get there are some awards that are just based on attainments, X amount of sales or whatever it might be. But yeah, it's not always about the most deserving person. A lot of times it was. It was rarely that somebody that didn't deserve it would get an award, but it might not be the most deserving person that got it. So yeah, that's a really great question.
Would that carry over to the Hall of Fame when you're looking at the people that were inducted?
Yeah, see, I don't know. I know that you can do fan voting, which
is kind of their way to make people not mad.
Yeah, and to give the middle finger to the American Music Awards too. Yeah, but see, that gets into a larger discussion of what is besides a commercial venture that is made to make money, what is the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame supposed to be and what is it supposed to represent, right? And that, I think, if you have 10 people in the room, you'll get 15 answers to that question, because that makes some of these inductees make a little bit more sense too. What is the definition of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? If it's for the purists like you and me, you want to do the people that laid the foundwork and the building blocks to where we are today. So, right. So Robert Johnson to Howlin' Wolf to Woody Guthrie to, the Faces and all this other stuff. To other people, it's just recognizing significant members of the music community. Like my son Sam and I have all these discussions, and he's got all these current artists. Oh, he's a Rock and Roll Hall of Famer. Some, Bad Bunny or Harry Styles. And I said they very well could be, but usually there's a longevity element that goes with it as well, as opposed to just being the biggest rock star on the planet for X amount of time. So, and like I said, I think it depends on your definition of what the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is. It certainly isn't just rock and roll. You could call it the Rock Pop Hall of Fame. You could call it the music. I don't know what it is, but I think that builds into that.
See, I look at it more like a museum, but I feel like is it the Mopar?
Yes.
In Seattle, I feel like they kind of
M-Pop.
They kind of did what the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame was becoming in my mind.
Yep.
Nobody's inducted, but it's like a museum of
Yeah.
music and other things.
I think that's fair. I think that's fair, and there's a lot of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame there's that Cleveland room where there's a Michael Stanley, there's a Freddie Johnston album up in the Midwest Troubadour thing. So there is that stuff, and there will be displays like when we were there last time. There was a Laura Jane Grace display, and there's a Shirley display. So they do have a lot of that stuff. And maybe they would be better off if they didn't have that induction, although there's no such thing as bad publicity, and people were arguing about it, right?
Yeah.
So maybe those guys that are behind it all and are the ones that are selling you the $17 pick guards and the $89 T-shirts know what they're doing. I don't know. But that's what I think. I think the definition, your personal definition of what the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame should be, determines how you feel about these lists every year.
Before we get into the inductees, you mentioned that you and Sam were recently at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Was there one item there that you were drawn to?
This is going to be from the Department of Redundancy Department. We always spend a great deal of time at that Beatle wall.
Yeah, that's where I was going to get at.
Yeah.
When you were there, did they have John Lennon's
Mellotron?
See, I was the Epiphone was there.
They had his Mellotron too. I don't remember. We've gone several times. There's always a whole bunch of guitars. I thought his Rickenbacker was there.
They did have that there as well.
Yeah. So I know there's George's the Nehru jacket, but to me it's the handwritten lyrics, and it's all that little ephemera that's just like, and the Mellotron, right? And they don't let you touch it because I wanted to play the intro to Strawberry Fields on it.
You'd probably do the same nerdy thing I do, where I put my hand on the glass and it's like an inch away from.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And one time when we were there, they had John's handwritten lyrics to Imagine up on that third floor where there's usually like
with special exhibit.
Yeah. And Sam and I were there many years ago when they did The Dead, and that was before either one of us was into it. Now I'd give anything, because I'm sure Jerry's Tiger guitar was probably in there. The one that who just bought it? Warren Haynes? Did he just buy it for $20 trillion?
Is that the most expensive? Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, I think so. So yes, that's the hand. Now I also, though, I'm smart enough to know how the process works, that wasn't the only time John wrote those lyrics. That might have been the final lyrics that he took into the studio, but still. Oh, yeah. If they had half a ham sandwich that he had eaten, I'd examine it and go, is that what kind of mustard in it? So, yeah.
I went with my brother and my mom 20 years ago when they had the John Lennon exhibit I don't know if you made it to that.
I don't think so, no.
They had, at the end of it, they had the bag of bloody clothes and his bloody glasses.
Oh my God.
It's pretty insane to see
I don't know
that.
how I feel about that.
Yeah, it was pretty weird. It was very sad, I guess.
Yeah.
And they had it was amazing the amount of John Lennon things that they had.
So you were what, 5 when he died? 3?
2, maybe 3.
I was in my apartment at 4110 East Johnson in Madison. I was a freshman sophomore in college. And I remember that night. We found out on Monday Night Football.
It's crazy how many people found out from Monday Night Football.
That's when the news broke, because again, that was back when there were 5 channels. So we were all watching the same thing. I don't remember who was on the game, but I remember them talking about it. And I mean, that was, for my generation, that was, Kennedy, right? I mean, that was the watershed moment. It's like, no way, right? Because he was only 40 years old. He was
insane.
And he was just making the starting over the, whatever the name of that record was that had Double Fantasy had just come out or was just about to come out,
with Rick Nielsen.
Yeah, Rick and Bunny went there and recorded. You should ask Rick about. I've asked him, but you should ask Rick about that at the next Joey song. That was, but I remember exactly where I was. It's and you get it when people say they remember where they were when Kennedy was shot or when the astronauts landed on the moon or all these seminal baby boomer events, but you remember that stuff, or 9/11 or Challenger. I remember where I was when Challenger. So anyway, I don't know what guys.
And it's amazing, not to get too off topic further, but that emotional, like the connection with music, because I'm sure you shed some tears.
Oh yeah. And I was one of the 29 million people that put on Imagine on my LP. Do I need to explain what an LP is? No.
Is that a type of gasoline?
It is. It is. It's propane. Hank Hill will tell you all about it. I'm sure, like everybody else, you found your copy of Imagine and you put on that song and lit a can. I mean, I'm sure that everybody did that because it was.
Well, then Double Fantasy ended up selling really well, which normally I don't know if it would have with every other song being a Yoko song, but I think it did pretty well, didn't it?
Yeah, and probably, what do they say? The best career move is dying, right? So, and then dying in that horrific way. And then as the story unfolded about Chapman and how he had gotten an album signed 4 hours earlier and they were...
Yeah, that's...
Yeah. Wow, I did not know that they had that stuff out for exhibit. That's amazing. That's amazing. I guess in the end, it's important. I mean, it's part... I don't think Lennon is the kind of person that would have cared if they had done that, right? He was about honesty and primal scream therapy and not sugarcoating it. So I know that's the reason why Yoko wanted that picture of the glasses, because she was quoted saying they need to see what they've done, society in general. And so I know that's why on the next record, whatever that one was that followed it, where they did some of the outtakes in another record, I think that was on the back cover of that was the glasses that, I think so.
With Central Park in the background, I
could
think.
have been. Very well could have been. Yeah, but so she was like, no, this is part of his story. So,
well, that's one thing I like about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, because it gives you and I, who don't have $1 billion to spend on things,
not yet,
a chance to go in and actually see some of these items up close. And a lot of these are privately owned,
right,
either by people that were rich enough to buy it or the artists themselves lending it. And I just think it's cool to have a space where you can go in, enjoy music, look at this stuff, stare at it like we have.
Yeah.
And it, regardless of who's inducted or who.
Yeah. I think so too. I always walk away anytime I'm at one of those exhibits of realizing how tiny these people are.
Yeah.
I mean, there's the Stones exhibit that's kind of kitty corner to the Beatles one, and they got a mix. I don't know if it's the 82 tour, the one where he was wearing the football jersey and the football. I mean, Sam could fit in. My son Sam, who's a little guy, could fit in. I mean, they're all just tiny. And then there's all those exhibits of all the clothes as you walk through that. I don't know. Which is why I was never able to be a rock. That's the reason why I was never a rock star, Andy. It had nothing to do with no talent. I was just a large and extra large, and I couldn't do it. So.
Well, what were your first thoughts when you saw this induction list?
So there's some on here.
And I guess, should we just go through
them?
Yeah,
let's do it. That's a good one. So this is in order in variety. So it's Phil Collins, Billy Idol, Iron Maiden, Ian Curtis, basically, Joy Division, New Order, Oasis, Sade, Luther Vandross, and Wu-Tang Clan. There are several, I think, slam dunks on here. So, but before we do that, because this would explain, let's get back into what the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is. So what is your if you had to write a mission statement for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, especially the induction part of it?
I would say it would be music artists that moved the needle in popular music. Meaning they wouldn't have to be the highest sellers of music, but it would be somebody that made a contribution that changed the direction of music. You've got, just as an example, Nirvana, but then you've got bands that paved the way, like Mudhoney and bands like that, let's face it, Mudhoney will never be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But
there might be a little outrage if.
But I guess that's not, obviously that wouldn't be a good statement or a good mission statement because nobody would give a half care about any of those.
Yeah, well, I think I'm in agreement with what I would like it to be is with yours. I would put innovation or firsts as kind of a. And then there are some that you just can't ignore because they were so massive, right? And so, to me, it would be bands or people or artists who kind of were the first ones to take it off. And I mean, let's roll the tape back. So listen to 50s rock and roll, right? Listen, it was either, doo-wop things or Bobby Darin and Cliff Richards and, that kind of stuff. White guys doing black music. And so then there was always somebody that picked it up and took it a little bit askew, like put a fuzz pedal on it, and all of a sudden you've got Cream or Hendrix or whatever it is. Beatles take it, and all of a sudden you're doing all the stuff that they did with it. I think those people are the first ones that should be in there, right? The ones that did that. The second category that I think is similar to that is the people that crossed over and were able to make one of these other genres, rap, zydeco, jazz, country, whatever it is, accessible to the larger crowd, and did it well. And that's where you get the personal opinion in there, right? Because there's lots of people that sold a lot of records that, if it hadn't been for reverb and auto-tune, would never have done anything. Or it's the producers that are doing it. They just happen to look good as they're doing it. And then the third tier is that just the people you can't ignore because of how massive they were. And anybody that brings people into music, there is value in that, even if it's crappy music, right? Because they bring it in. And you can list, not that any of these people make crappy music, but, today's megas, right? Taylor Swift and Harry Styles and Bad Bunny and all these, they will undoubtedly be in there, at least for now, that third category, although you could argue Bad Bunny makes that second category too, of that crossover. So I think that's it. And because the other definition of it is just recognizing vastness. You know what I mean? But I'm in mostly agreement with you of what it should be. I think it's more of that latter than the former. By looking at some of these, I'm hard pressed to see. And the other thing, I guess, Andy, too, is don't mistake somebody that does quality. Like Sade made wonderful music, super talented. It was kind of brought in that yacht rock for gals thing back in the day. And I remember when she hit, she did it well. I just don't, in my mind, she didn't innovate and she didn't, but that doesn't mean those aren't great records and that she didn't do what she did really well. And it was quality too, again, because you could argue that Kid Rock does what he does and does it very well. It's just, if making dog crap is your criteria. So that's where I get at it too. It's like I don't want anybody, if I say, I'm not sure about, and we won't even do somebody on here, I'm not sure about Harry Styles making it on. That doesn't mean I don't love Harry Styles records, that he's not doing it well, that, et cetera, et cetera. So that, I don't know. That's kind of my diatribe on that.
It makes sense to me. And I'm in agreement with that.
But then it gets, but like all these things, and then it just gets to personal opinion. What do you like and not like? Because it is kind of hard to say something that you don't like is still done well.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Like looking at the list, I didn't even know how to pronounce. Say Sade?
Oh, Sade.
Like, I don't even think I've ever heard of her, but
Diamond Life. I could, you won't have me sing too.
I think a great thing for people getting into the Hall of Fame is it puts people on the radar as well. So people that shun it or,
that's right.
It's a good thing to get in there ultimately because you're getting in front of more new fans, which a lot of these people, they're at the stage of the game where they're not touring anymore or they're done. So, I mean, that's a nice bump for them.
Yeah, I agree. But there's usually for me when I look at a list and think it's not the best list, it's only because, not that I don't think any of these people could or should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It's more of what we'll do in another segment, the snubs. Wait a minute, so-and-so was in before, so-and-so, like forever and ever. The fact that Warren Zevon wasn't in was the greatest tragedy in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Well, Warren made it last year, so we can all us Warren Zevon fans can all calm down.
And do you think that he only made it in because of the outrage that he wasn't in there, or because of the the board finally realized how talented he was?
Boy, that's a tough one. I mean, because
we're never going to know.
I could do an hour on Warren Zevon. I mean, not only his own stuff, but he wrote 3 or 4 hits for Linda Ronstadt and lots of other folks. So he was, to me, and he was a unique talent, right? who else could write Roland the Headless Thompson Gunner, right? Who else could write Gorilla, You're a Desperado? Who else could write Bad Luck Streak in Dancing School? And those are great songs. They're not just, nothing wrong with Weird Al. Actually love Weird Al. But they're not just, isn't that clever? Isn't it? What a fun title. I mean, those are really clever songs. So that also tempers your level of outrage or your level of how you feel about somebody else getting in when you think about who isn't in that should be. And I think that's an important part of it too.
Do you think somebody like Weird Al will ever get in doing parodies? Because he's a guy that's popular.
Absolutely. And he innovated, right? Because, and again, you're too young to remember this. Boy, if I get a dime for every time I say this. Back in the 70s, a real popular genre was people would make these records where they would, like they were interviewing somebody and then do a clip from a popular song. So what did you see out there, ma'am? And then they'll do a thing like something Purple People Eater song or, whatever. I mean, those were really big. I don't know what those are called. That was the form of parody. Weird Al was really the first one to regularly, and I think MTV obviously helped with that as well. But if we want to do innovators, and really nobody's ever picked up that mantle because it's kind of like trying to do the Beatles. What he did it really well, and he was respected. I mean, he didn't do it in a way where people would go, oh, what a jerk.
Right.
He loved it, and it was never mean, right?
I think he asked for, typically would ask first, which he didn't have to do.
Which he did not have to do and always did, and that made it, because I think he asked for one for Madonna. Oh, no, Madonna said yes, because he did Like a Surgeon. There were some people that said no, and he didn't do it, but there were enough where he could. Yeah, I guess with my criteria of being an innovator, Weird Al probably could.
I would assume there would be some kind of base of people that weren't happy with that, but that's how it goes, right?
Well, think about it like how the Baseball Hall of Fame, you have like special awards or at the top, there's a Ford Frick Broadcaster Award in baseball and all these other things. So you could have, I think the thing that usually makes people mad is the fact that it's got the word rock and roll in it.
Right. People can't get past that.
Can't get past that. Right. So you look at it and you say Wu-Tang Clan. I think they are, and I think they fit, or Luther Vandross. I mean, that gets back, and that probably wasn't the best choice. They're kind of stuck with it now, but you could do that as well. So
it's rough though too, because I think to be eligible, isn't it 20 or 25 years
from your first record, from your first recorded release?
So to people in high school or just out of high school, a lot of these people are ancient dinosaurs that they never heard of.
That's
for
right.
the most part.
That's right. But there's a reason. Obviously, the reason why they do that is to get past the recency bias and go, was it really that big of a deal in hindsight? Did they really have the impact we were sure they were going to have? I think it kind of makes sense. Should we take a break and then go through this list? And
yeah, that sounds great.
Let's do that. So, all right, let's take a break, everybody, and you're not going to want to miss this, because the gas bagging that Andy and I are about to do on these artists, I'm going to spend 20 minutes teaching them how to pronounce Sade. So we'll do that. We'll be right back. Liner Notes, I'm Mike Gamal, and that fellow over there is
Andy McNamara.
Hey everybody, we're back with Liner Notes, and you are going to be so glad we took a break, because Andy just had to watch me sing Smooth Operator by Sade.
He's got a good voice, Mike.
I do? Well, thank you. That's very nice of you. So we did that, and then we spent about 7 minutes working on the pronunciation. I still think he says charade every time I ask him to say it. But
Sade.
There you go.
I got it.
Nice. Well played.
There's no H in there, but I guess there is.
And there's no R, and I think she's French or Moroccan or something like that. But she was, there was a whole genre you probably don't know who Anita Baker is either.
Wasn't that the Clarence Thomas?
That was Anita Hill.
Oh, Anita Hill. You're right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe Clarence Thomas molested Anita Baker too. I don't know. But there was a whole genre of these wonderful lady soul singers, kind of yacht rocky kind of, and Anita Baker was great too. But I realize that's falling on deaf ears with you. So, all right, let's go through this list. We'll do them in the order that they are on. This looks like it is an alphabetic order from last name. Where possible on here. So this is from Variety, so we'll go right from the top. Or do you want to save the top one for last?
Oh, we can do that. We can do this one first. I know you've got some strong feelings.
I don't have any strong opinions on anything. I am milquetoast. I am oatmeal. Sure. Phil Collins, you go first.
I think Phil Collins is deserving.
Just because of the drum thing on In the Air Tonight?
Well, and again, it might be the age difference, but I think when I think of Phil Collins, I think of Genesis because you're watching MTV with the Land of Confusion and all that.
Yep.
For the record, I did not like, they had a few songs with Phil Collins that I did not like. I Can't Dance, I Can't Stand.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
there were a couple other songs.
Isn't that where they were like,
yeah. But Land of Confusion, great. Phil Collins is a solo artist, so because that's who we're talking about is Phil Collins as a solo artist. If I remove the Genesis part, I guess he's got a bunch of hits.
Yes.
If Sade is in there, I guess I have no problem with Phil Collins. From what I've seen, he did definitely leave a mark with Genesis, but did he do it as a solo artist? I guess I'm on the fence on that one.
Yeah, I did not bother to press the link. I think he also produced some big hit records too. I think there is certainly a Phil Collins style that permeated the 80s and the early 90s, right? With the kind of brassy and the big drums and the little bit of echo on stuff. So I think from that second category that we came up with in the last segment, the definitions of what the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is, he certainly was a major sonic force in the late 80s. This is one where my own personal biases come in because it wasn't a sound for me. Nothing that resonated with me. And I'm old enough to remember when Peter Gabriel was the lead singer in Genesis, and that always to me was prime. And I could never separate that because to me it felt like and you're right, he's coming in as Phil Collins, not as Genesis. So he's not coming in with Tony and
well, were his albums before Genesis, were they hits? Because
no, he didn't have album. His solo. He was the drummer in Genesis. He didn't sing. He didn't do anything on those first couple records. Lamb Lies Down on Broadway and all those. He was just the drummer. They didn't know what they had, or maybe they did, but it was Peter Gabriel's band. So everything came post Peter going off solo and then Genesis having success. And then, Phil Collins was like Kenny Loggins. He was on every soundtrack on every movie that came out, in whatever that was, 86 through whenever. So he certainly had a huge influence on the sound of the 80s. It was just not my thing. So I guess I've got to get past my own personal bias and say if it's about really shaping for better or for worse the sound, I guess he does belong in it.
His two biggest songs, probably In the Air Tonight and Another Day in Paradise.
Oh, I don't even know. Oh, yeah. He did. There was another really slow song that it doesn't matter. This is going to turn into old man radio if I have to try to think of names of songs.
He had the annoying Sissa Studio song.
Oh yeah,
I forgot about that one.
Oh, and he did the Supreme song, You Can't Hurry Love. He did a cover of that. Maybe part of it too is I was working as a DJ in a club at this time. And you
probably heard a lot of that.
Yeah, I think I really need to think about that as I go through some of this because that might just be, sonic overload for me. But I guess if I'm true to our criteria, he probably fits. There's many more outrageous ones than Phil Collins making it in, so I'm okay with that.
So he gets a good check from both of us.
Yeah, he gets I certainly don't view him as a innovator in the sense that he moved the ball forward. You could even say he regressed it a little bit, but he certainly had a huge impact. So yeah, I'll go with it. I'll do that one for 20, Alex.
All right.
So, Billy Idol.
I think he should be in there. He brought the punk edge. He was in the punk band prior.
And then, Gen X. Yep.
With his solo career and big again, MTV probably can thank MTV for his
absolutely
big solo career.
That was the vision. I was just listening to a podcast on the way up called One Song. I don't know if you ever listened to that, where Luxury and Diallo, there's two DJs. They break down a song. they spend an hour and they do the stems and everything. And they were doing Nirvana's Team Spirit. And they're like giving a shout out to how amazing Butch Vig is. And I'm going, he's not that amazing. But anyway, they were talking about how so much of that music in that time, for those of us that grew up in it, is visual and sonic. A lot of times the first time you heard many of these songs was when you were also seeing it.
Yep.
And certainly for Billy Idol, Dancing with Myself and Rebel Yell and all those. And he had the sneer thing going and all that. So, and actually, for those of you at home on your iPod, people even have iPods anymore. Am I really showing my age here? Yeah. Anyway, with your device, go do Dancing with Myself with Generation X. It's got a much harder edge to it, and there's some cool guitar parts. They mellowed it out for MTV when he did it solo. But yeah, I think so too, because he was one of the first, him and, use your English, Mike, The Clash and Billy Idol. Certainly they don't have the exact same bona fides, but they did that crossover that said it's okay to have, half your head shaved and things pierced in places they're not supposed to go. So yeah, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I think there's a documentary out on Billy Idol that just came out, which it's interesting, as we talked about in the past, when people are angling to get into the Hall of Fame, things start coming out,
yes,
being made, getting released. And he also performed at some of the inductions, and so, I mean, he did all the homework he did all the footwork to get in there.
Yeah, and I think, too, and this isn't bad, it just is, I think his was also, back in the day, was a very specific campaign to take the rough, Moni, come on. Yeah. It was great, and I played the crap out of that as a DJ, right? Because it was, and people loved it. But I don't think back when he was starting Generation X that, hey, we should do Tommy James and the Shondells. That's, so, and that's okay, man. People that plant their artistic flag in the ground and refuse to move it are destined to not make a lot of money, and that's okay too. But I got no problem with it. And it was if you look at it as a character, he created a great, kind of like Cyndi Lauper, hey, Sam's calling. Who I think is immensely talented, but it's a character, right? Cyndi Lauper played a character. She's not playing it anymore. Billy still is playing it, and there's something to be said for that. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm good with that.
Do you need to take
I'm sure he wanted to know where who knows what, why I'm not making him dinner tonight.
So we agree on Billy Idol. Next up,
Iron Maiden.
Yeah, what do you think? I'll let you start with that one.
They're not my cup of tea, but I know people that I know that are into that genre. They are Mount Olympus type.
Now, the people that were complaining that they weren't in the Hall of Fame forever were the group that was saying it's the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And,
right.
But I don't even know if I consider Iron Maiden rock and roll a typical definition. I would consider that like crap.
And here I held back on Phil Collins. My God, people.
That's just my personal opinion.
Yeah.
But I get it. Going with our definition of they made impact, though. They had, their character with Eddie.
Yes.
And they did all that. And for what they do it well. And they've got a dedicated fan base. So
yes,
they should be in.
They should, and like I said, this is in that category. So if I had never read any music literature, I wouldn't know what great jazz is without hearing it. I know it's Coltrane and Miles Davis and all this other stuff. So the people that do know it help me inform me of that. I'm not a metal guy, or whatever you want to call them. But the people that I know that are into that, Iron Maiden is Mount Rushmore material, right? I don't know who the other three are on it, but so I go with that. Yes, they should.
So we've been in agreement so far the whole time.
Yeah, this is not turning out to be the argue fest that we want it to be.
Yeah, but it may be coming up soon though. So Joy Division, New Order. I don't have really an opinion on Joy Division. I know I've got friends that really like them a lot, and I've listened to them. They're enjoyable. Maybe like an early Pavement.
Yeah.
Some of their stuff. I have no problem with them getting in.
Yeah. So there's a category of bands that the Smiths fall into, and Morrissey and Joy Division and New Order, and orchestral maneuvers in the dark and Depeche Mode, these kind of quasi-emo pop, and their fans are going to yell at, well, there's only going to be 3 listening, so it doesn't matter, fall into that category. And so for the people that I've never looked to music to help me feel like I fit in, like that whole goth emo thing. So that's not what music brings to me, but I know for the people that it does, bands like this are critical, right? They're critical in that it's okay to be different, or it's okay to kind of wallow, right? I mean, Morrissey's made a career out of A, not showing up for concerts, and B, wallowing, right? And I think sonically they took things in a different direction. So, the other thing to remember, at least for me on some of these things, is that there's so many bands that were huge in the UK and mediocre here, and vice versa. Like the Dave Matthews band can't get arrested in the UK. And here they can do 3 nights at Red Rocks, right? And so I know that for those guys, for the folks over in the UK, seminal band. So, yeah.
So an agreement there. I know how you feel about the next artist.
Yes, Oasis.
Yeah.
They are certainly Beatles 3.0. I don't know exactly who 2.0 is.
I was going to ask you.
I don't know yet. But writing is a talent. Music creation is a talent that I admire greatly. And writing hooky, memorable stuff for the masses that doesn't feel like it's bubble gum. It's not sugar, right? Is really hard to do, and Noel does it so well. There are some people that think that Liam's got one of the greatest rock and roll voices. I don't think that. I think sometimes if he would just open up his vocal, but I mean, there's some of Oasis's B-sides from those first few records are better than a lot of people's biggest hits. So, and I mean, they were the poster boys for Britpop, which was the biggest musical wave in the early 90s that there was. And I guess I'm a fan of packaging. I like the packaging too, that whole Fighting Brothers and, stuff. And I never skip past an Oasis song when it pops up on my thing. So I'm probably being a bit hypocritical, and it doesn't meet innovation. It doesn't meet moving the ball forward. I guess it meets the third one of, it brought Britpop along with Blur and Suede and all those other Britpop bands. So yeah, I love them. That's a slam dunk for me.
Yeah, and you sold me on episode 1 of Liner Notes. So it's a go for me too. I learned a lot about Oasis. If you don't know a lot about Oasis, go watch the first episode of Liner Notes where Mike goes into detail about Oasis and the Oasis brothers. Lots of good stuff there, which was very, again, interesting for me because I didn't know a whole lot of their backstory. So I agree they should be in.
Yep. All right. I think now we might be running into where we're going to, especially since you had no idea who Sade was until this. So Sade, do you want me to start or you want to start?
Yeah, I'll start.
All right.
So allegedly, Sade has been around for 4 decades. You played me a song and you were nice enough to sing it for me, and I enjoyed it.
I'm sorry about that.
That's okay. It was a private show.
Yeah.
Appreciated it. And I heard that song, but it was one that even after I heard it, I was kind of laughing when I heard it because for some reason it just brings me, I'm not going to say joy, but memories, or just thinking of it. It was very loungy, which is how you yacht rock, I think, is how you explain it.
Yeah.
I don't think she should be in there. That's a waste of a pick. Get somebody in there that is more, I guess, I don't know, innovative.
You're going to be surprised. I was about to double negative. I don't disagree with you. That's passive aggressive. I don't have a problem with her being in because, as we started, I don't know whether we were on the air or not, she's in that Anita Baker, female solely kind of thing, Mary J. Blige, although it's not apples and oranges. So I feel like she's representing that genre, maybe more. Now, if Anita gets in, I actually think Anita Baker's a stronger singer. And there again, there might be people pulling their hair out going, just because they're two women singing doesn't mean they're the same. But to me, they came out at the same time and had all that. So, and that gets back to the rock, putting the rock, certainly not a rock and roll person, certainly didn't innovate, but did a little bit of the crossover, right? I mean, it's that there's a bit of a Latin Moroccan feel to it. And it was I assume it was at least a top 20 hit. I don't have the charts in front of me. So it's not egregious that she's in, but I'll go with you on probably there are other folks that we could put on the list when we do our snubs that you could say probably need to make it in. But the people that make this decision have to make sure that it's not all 90s grunge bands or 80s metal bands or hair bands or whatever it is. And she's a good. I'm sure one of the criticisms is, other than the Motown in the early '60s, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is pretty white.
Yeah.
So and I don't mind. Look, not to turn this into a political thing, but representation matters. I mean, it matters that we recognize things that aren't necessarily mainstream. Again, I'm not sure she's the right one to do that, but I think that could be part of it. So
you thought ultimately...
I'm okay with her being in. I don't think it's egregious that she's in, but I agree with you in that there's probably a long list that I would...
So that's our first both no vote.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Luther Vandross. Do you know who Luther Vandross is?
Yes. I don't think he should be in there. He's got an impressive history, but I'll let you probably know him a little better than I do, so I'll let you sell me and then see if I change my mind.
To a certain audience in those days in the 80s, he was right. Teddy Pendergrass, Luther Vandross, we're not in the air, so it's the ladies take your panties off kind of
music. Like a crooner, Michael Bublé
Yeah, but
type.
a sexy kind, even though, and Luther lost a lot of weight, but it was, it was that singing those love songs to the folks that were into that soul sound. And he was, again, other than Teddy Pendergrass, at least in my mind, that epitome, there was... back in the 60s, it was Sam Cooke and Otis Redding and those kind of folks. This was kind of the 80s version of that class of those guys that just could sing a song about mixing it up in the kitchen and you knew exactly what they meant, if you know what I'm saying. So again, I think if the idea is representation of a genre and making sure that it looks like it, he's as good as anybody from that to put in. Was not my cup of tea. I probably couldn't make it through a Luther Vandross song, but I get it.
Yeah, I guess ultimately no problem with that.
Yeah.
I mean, the name recognition, I recognize his name. I've heard it forever, so he's obviously got...
He's a great singer. I mean, he's a great singer, but I never bought a Luther Vandross album. Like I said, I'm not sure I've ever made it through a complete song, but just because it's not in my canon doesn't mean that it's not super cool.
All right.
Wu-Tang Clan.
Wu-Tang Clan.
Undoubtedly. The biggest slam dunk on here. That's
even more than Phil Collins?
Yeah. And Sade. That's not even that they tick all the boxes for me, including my packaging. That's an easy one. Now, the only one you would go against it is rock and roll, but
you're going to have, again, the people that complain, but they're the same people that complained about Beastie Boys getting in and Salt and Pepper and
And no, Wu-Tang Clan ticks all the boxes, including the high quality, never throwing anything, not putting out junk. Yeah, that's an easy one.
Well, I think you were a fan of them releasing that one album.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Which I still got to figure out who has that now, because I think the Farmer Bro's in jail and had to sell it. So
have they actually kept that album under wraps? Like the owners have not released it?
As far as I know, that had to be part of the agreement.
Yeah.
I mean, at some point.
Yeah, somebody's going to put it out.
And who knows? It might be on. I don't know if Wu-Tang's got any box sets or deluxe versions, and they may not say that. I don't know, but. I just to me, they're integrity, innovative, high quality, move the needle, crossed over, all those things. And that's an easy one, at least for me.
Yep. No complaints for me on that.
Yeah. All right. Well, now we got another 364 days until we do the next one. This is fun. We're going to do snubs.
Yep.
And I think we should also do, so there's, this will take a little bit of research, but in some of the Sports Hall of Fame stuff, there's the why weren't they first ballot? I think that would be a fun one to do too. What bands that you can't believe they didn't get in right at their 25-year mark? I think early on it'll be easy to get past it because they had to fill it up. There was just too many people. There hadn't been 25 years of it before. But I think over the last 20 years, there's probably going to be a few that we're going to go, they didn't make it in on the first ballot.
I think there's a lot of that.
Yeah. And so I think that's good.
I know we're both going to have a lot of snubs.
Yes.
Which, I mean, that's, a lot of them personally that we're going to be talking about.
And you all will too if you come to Joey's Song January 9. So yes, there's a lot, and that gets back into what we were talking about too, about maybe branching out and have more categories like producer or. Some of those people in not the Appleton Wrecking Crew, but the LA Wrecking Crew, right? Carol Kay and Glenn Campbell. I know Glenn Campbell's in, but there's some session men. I don't know if James Jamerson from Motown is in, but there's some iconic session people
that played on most of the albums that are in the.
Absolutely, and you would argue that are as critical to that success of some of those Stax people, right? Steve Cropper and Duck Dunn and all those guys that, and maybe they are, and I shouldn't, maybe I'm saying people should be in that already are, but there's those categories of people that contributed for that reason that I think there's probably good stuff in. There's a few of those, like I said, that are going to show up at Joey's Song, and we can talk about them too.
Well, thanks, Mike. It was nice to
talk.
Well,
and again, I appreciate you inviting me into. For those folks that don't know, this is Andy's home. He lives here. There's a cot out back, and if you ask his wife, she's fine with it.
Or is she?
Ooh, I don't know. There'll be a follow-up on that. So you've listened to Liner Notes on Joey's Song. As always, joeysong.org for any information. On the socials, we're all at Joey's Song in some form or another.
Leave a review and
yes,
subscribe and all that kind of stuff.
Because somehow the magic algorithms, this makes it easier for other people to find. So if you take 2 minutes and follow or subscribe, depending on where you get this, and if you write a small review, even if it's a negative one saying Mike's a dork, it all helps. Hey, thanks for sticking around all the way to the end of the podcast. A quick reminder, if you can give us a follow or subscribe on your favorite podcast provider and write a short review, it will really help us out. If you can head over to YouTube and subscribe to our channel over there, that's another big help. These simple acts make it easier for others to find us. And of course, head over to joeysong.org to join our community and stay up to date on all the news. Thanks, and we'll talk again real soon.
Learn more about Joey's Song by visiting joeysong.org. The theme music was composed by Sam Gamal, and Joey's Song is a federally registered 501c3 charity. Thanks for listening.